own your own shit, man. You're responsible for your own life.
Yeah.
And you have agency in your life.
Yeah.
And if you can realize that you have control and your control comes from you, and it's not about the external world, it'll give you remarkable headspace of freedom.
Our guest for today is Joshin Raghubar. He's an African entrepreneur in the media, marketing and technology sectors, chairperson of Cape Innovation and Technology Initiative, known as CITI, founder and executive chairperson of Ikenio Ventures, board member of African Leadership Initiative, just to mention a few. He's a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative and the Aspen Institute's Global Leaders Network. He's also in the 2016 class of Yale World Fellows. An all-round good guy as well, I must say.
Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Joshin in the house. Many of you may know him, and welcome, Joshin.
Thanks very much.
And I just wanted to give you a little bit of my wake-up routine. Normally, I just, get a motivational quote, something that will get me going.
Okay.
But today, I actually, I was reading your bio, and just reading your bio alone on LinkedIn, I was like, man, I need to wear a suit, The more I saw your achievements, the more I thought I need to just stack on, tie. And then I saw some of your videos on YouTube. I was like, okay, cool. I took everything off, I love the way you dress. You look good, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, guys who know me, I don't wear a suit that often, so no need to, I think always dress up, but no need to dress up,
Yeah. No, I'm glad. Is it like is it a conscious choice? Is it a way of being more, approachable and relatable? Because I feel I'm more relatable dressed like this. The more I, look formal, people start calling you things like uncle or mister. Is it a thing for you?
Actually, I really, maybe my secret passion is fashion. So I think of dressing as a way of expressing yourself. So, I dress the way I feel, and often the way I feel is quite relaxed and quite casual.
Yeah.
I've nothing against wearing a suit. In fact, I quite enjoy it, but it's only on that rare occasion, and it's an expression of how I feel. So it links to really trying to live an authentic life, and authentic in business, authentic with the people around you, and dressing the way I feel is an expression of authenticity. So yeah, it's not just because I'm trying to be like super casual, but generally that's how I feel.
Cool, I love it. I really do. Talking about your bio, I actually realized that you've built a very solid pyramid for yourself in business. And obviously the bottom part being the more solid part, the foundation of your career. And it looks like you're still building. And I just wanted to know from you, what would you say to a startup company somewhere that was affected by COVID? They're busy trying to pick up some pieces to get back to where they are because, they sort of failed to build a solid foundation. What kind of advice would you give that kind of individual or, institution?
Get up again and try to do it again. If it's not COVID, there's always something. Obviously COVID really, knocked us all, but it was so unexpected and pervasive. But there's always something in business, right? A big client that goes away suddenly, or a key staff member that disappears or moves on. So there's always something that's going to knock you down, and you just got to kind of dig deep. Resilience is very important when building a business, and start building again.
Have you been knocked down before?
Many times. I've certainly had my fair share of being knocked down, and it happens still all the time, right? Whenever you're trying to build and do something different and something new, you're going to, it's not going to be easy. So I've had experiences of, massive clients that you think are going to double your business for reasons completely out of your control. You get a letter in the post and saying, the contract's not being renewed. I was talking about this last night when someone was talking about office space, and I remember, finally managed to get the office space I wanted in Johannesburg, signed a long-term lease, a very expensive lease, on the back of a client verbally committing for the next 3 to 5 years, a very big client, and doubling their budgets, only to kind of get this letter in the post saying, sorry, they're not renewing, and completely, for a reason completely out of our control. And you're left with a lease that's probably got, millions of rands worth of commitment over the next few years to figure out how to get out of, or do you keep it and try to find a new client? And so these things happen, all the time in different shapes and forms. And you just have to, one, believe that you'll get through it, two, just rather take the pain early and make the cuts early, and just get up. And in my experience, I've had some serious knockdowns, but every time it's been an opportunity to build something, and it's always been, with the benefit of hindsight, always been a learning experience that actually took me to the next level.
All right. I think the startup economy could argue that with more, I would say, launched businessmen like yourself, you will have sort of like a cushion to fall back on, and they would probably want to know, what is that cushion? What is it? What do you put on your foundation as a businessman? Is it morals? Is it friendships? Is it, are you collecting as many investors as possible in case, this door shuts, this one opens? Like, what is really the secret sauce to being sustainable even in hard times, in business, especially in the tech industry?
Yeah, so I think there's a number of those things that you mentioned. I think it's important that if you do business properly, you treat people properly, and you build good relationships. Those relationships are something you fall back on. I think the mark of success is not just winning all the time. It's the mark of success is being invited back to play over the course of your lifetime. So you can have star players, but if they're just assholes, you wouldn't invite them back to play with you.
Yeah, certainly.
Right. So you really, I think the mark of success is being invited back to play, which means you've played well and you've played fairly and you've played in a way that other people have enjoyed playing with you. So building relationships and keeping those relationships are a really important part of your foundation. Because if things don't work out in a particular venture, people will realize that the circumstances are not particularly anything that this won't be a slight on yourself. And they're willing to back you again. They're willing to do business with you again. They're willing to support you again, willing to make a referral again. And so I think that's critically important. Of course, it's important if you have family or people close to you. You gotta at least be able to cry on their shoulder. Even if they can't do much more than that, it's always good to have an outlet and people that know that will be there for you. And then you really got to realize that your control lies within yourself. And I think that's the main belief that you need to have. It's your circumstances, the weather comes and goes and changes. And a lot of things are out of your control, but really your destiny is within your control. And if you realize that, and as your main part of your foundation, and take agency of that, you will always be able to pick up, grow, prosper.
Wow, I'm actually taking notes for myself here. Sounds like the secret is in getting up, because you definitely will be knocked down, but it's in how many times you get up, actually. In the late 90s, I believe, you played a very integral part in, launching what is today known as one of the biggest, non-profit incubators and tech accelerators. I'm sure you're talking about City here. And I just wanted you to take me back a bit and let us know what inspired that move. You could have done anything else. What inspired you to help, the inception of this non-profit organization? Really, what was in your mind? Why did you decide to do it then? And, with the people you did it with?
Yeah, so I was young. I just graduated university in the late 90s. Embarking on my career, really excited about having an impact on the world, and really wanted not just to be a proud South African citizen, and that and I say that not lightly, because pre-1994 it was very difficult to be fully express yourself as a citizen of this country if you're a person of color. And so it was really important to me to make a difference. I'm part of the Mandela generation. when he was our first president, and he was my first president. So it was important to make a difference and be a South African citizen. But at the same time, South Africa was emerging out of really the sanction period, the darkness really of apartheid, and not just apartheid being keeping us in the dark, but really global sanctions meant that South Africa was completely isolated. So we were experiencing in the late 90s an incredible emergence into the rest of the world, like the darkness into the light, so to speak. Really what was so exciting is that we also were not just becoming fully fledged South African citizens, we were becoming global citizens. But what was really concerning to me at the time was that I could see that the rest of the world, from a technology perspective, was like flying by. They were racing by. The dot-com boom was happening in Silicon Valley. It was a remarkable time, but it felt like in South Africa, if we didn't do something, we'd be left behind. We were still coming out of the kind of apartheid economy, mining, agriculture, digging holes in the ground and picking fruit of trees. And if I knew that if we wanted to become a place where we could remain to live, as a young person, you have a choice. You could either leave and go overseas and make your fortune, or stay and make a difference. And if you wanted this place to be a place that we could still be a global citizen, we had to transform it. And transforming it meant that we had to build a globally relevant technology economy. So in many ways, it was slightly selfish. I didn't want to leave Cape Town, but also wanted to be a global citizen. So you have to change the environment. And so that's really why we got stuck in. And realizing that if we, as a region, wanted to be globally competitive, relevant, and have an inclusive future for the people that live here, we had to build a tech economy and transform an old economy into a new economy. And that really was the driving energy and idea behind the formation of City.
Wow. Are you comfortable with what you've achieved so far?
Comfortable is such a weird word. So the answer is, look, there's so much more to do, right? I felt like, we built City, it's been 20 years now. We're only at the beginning. We've got to think about the next 20 years. I think on reflection, we've done remarkably well. I mean, we were lucky and good, which is always the best combination. Cape Town today stands as a globally relevant tech economy, right? And certainly the number one economy in the continent from a tech perspective. But there's so much more to go. The world actually doesn't stop. It actually still feels like it's flying by, and even more so. So I think not satisfied and not comfortable is probably where I would land with that question.
All right, Aluta, continue.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We're still going forward. I mean, you touched on Silicon Valley. For me, I think Silicon Valley is I wouldn't want to say an example, but it's proof that if, various stakeholders are in close proximity, and they are clustered, the economy is likely to grow more exponentially faster, if I may put it that way. And I've been wondering, why isn't that happening in South Africa specifically, or in Africa? I haven't seen a Silicon Valley type of setup. And I'm wondering, what would it take to have a Silicon Valley type of setup in a rural area, maybe like, in Limpopo or somewhere in the Eastern Cape? Have you thought of something like that?
Yeah, I've thought quite deeply about that, but that's really been our journey here. And the answer is that it's not going to happen. I mean, frankly, Silicon Valley happens in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. It's not happening in Idaho in the middle of the US.
Yeah.
Right. So trying to, impose the idea of a Silicon Valley or this vibrant cluster of global competitiveness in a village in Limpopo is just, I think it's a bit of a futile exercise. In fact, Silicon Valley doesn't happen in most parts of the US. As you may know, right now because of COVID and the pandemic, a lot of people are actually working from home and working remotely. So currently, Silicon Valley is going under almost an existential crisis of its own, because a lot of its kind of core tech workers have been working remotely for the last while and go, wait, hold on, do I need to be somewhere? In fact, there's a big debate now. A lot of guys are moving to Miami and Austin from San Francisco. And so I think to answer your question, it's there are two parts to that. One is that it's really hard to happen as Silicon Valley, anywhere in the world, in the way that Silicon Valley is and happens in the US. But I think the more, I think it's interesting part of your question is, can we build a cluster economy that is globally competitive? And is there hope to build that in cities and places around the continent? And your other part of your question was, why aren't we seeing it in Africa? And I would challenge that. I think we are seeing it here. I mean, I can certainly say that Cape Town has got the green shoots of that and emerged, that started to evolve over the years. Where we were 20 years ago to where we are now, it's completely different. Here now there's capital, there's talent, it's a great lifestyle. We've come a long way. So this is a place where, in Cape Town, is a place where technology businesses can flourish and do flourish. We can see that in the growth of new companies, the new investments that are happening, the big statements made by people like Amazon and Google by placing creating a meaningful presence in the region. So it can happen, and it is happening. But the challenge is that it is difficult. We're competing against the rest of the globe. It takes a collaboration between business, between the public sector, government, citizens, academia. It takes many years of building a high trust environment. And that's all these layers that you can build on top of each other. And if you keep plugging away at these things, collaboration, building high trust environment, crowding in capital, celebrating successes, co-location, getting people to talk to each other, this coordinated effort in a high trust space. And if you keep plugging away, it will happen. I think there is a massive challenge now, and I don't have a good answer to this. Is this because of the pandemic? Everyone's gone remote, so it's really questions the idea that we built a lot of things on, which is put people in one location and create collaboration and a cluster emerges. And we've just got to see where this plays out, because maybe that there's a combination of that and building these virtual tribes. But ultimately, a cluster is a tribe of people that like hanging out together and like building stuff together, right?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, you went deep on that one. You got me thinking a lot. So you sound pretty confident. I mean, the way you talk about Africa, the way you talk about South Africa, where we are, and where we stand against the rest of the world. Many people don't see the way you see. Many people see that we are probably 200 years behind on everything, be it academia, be it, tech, do you really see us competing against the rest of the world? Do you see us having a chance? What do you think is the current status quo? Are we competing? Are we learning from the rest of the world? Are we thriving? Are we barely scraping the pot?
It's a combination of all of those. I think we have massive challenges. We keep shooting ourselves, scoring lots of own goals as well. But if you just kind of zoom out, over the last 30, 40 years, I mean, it's remarkable the journey we've traveled. Like I said, the world doesn't wait for us. So, so we still have to try harder, much harder. But we've come a long way. So that gives you cause for being hopeful. But I am genuinely also concerned. I don't think I'm unreservedly confident. I think we've got some massive challenges. And also don't think we must talk about Africa as a whole. I mean, we're so many different countries, and even within these countries, so many different regions, so many different cities. I mean, even in South Africa, I think, we've got great inequalities between different cities in different parts of the country. And Cape Town can be globally competitive as a region. It doesn't mean South Africa is globally competitive in general for a particular thing like tech. So I think we've got to build where we can. I think we've got to build centers of excellence at a city level and a regional level. And if you do that in many cities across the continent, if we do it consistently and do it broadly, and if many cities and regions get it right, we can talk about Africa as a region. So I think we've got to drive these pockets of excellence. I think we've got a massive potential demographic dividend, but it also could be a demographic curse. We have a lot of young people. I think by 2035 or 34, there will be more young Africans entering the workplace than the rest of the world combined. Right? More young Africans entering the workplace every year than the rest of the world combined. Now, I mean, that can be super exciting if we can challenge that, but geez, that scares me, right? It scares me because we're not prepared. We're not absorbing those jobs. We're not thinking about an economy beyond jobs, frankly, because if the promise of tech actually continues and tech actually has a social impact and grows, actually it's going to be absorbing less jobs. It's going to be absorbing jobs for people that have high skills, that can work in a tech economy. So certainly we've got to make efforts to train people to be able to work in a tech economy, but it's not the same kind of labor absorption as the old economy, because ultimately it allows us to do more things with less people. So it's pretty scary. An amazing opportunity for us to think differently. But yeah, we've got some very interesting times ahead of us.
Certainly. I feel like we still teaching our young people to secure jobs, rather than start businesses. We do have City, is a perfect example of, you come in, we steer you in the right direction, you're not going to work forever. We probably don't want a generation that will be focused on getting jobs and staying in a job, even though we still need, people to stay in jobs for our economy to be sustainable. But how do we steer to a different direction in terms of, being innovative, starting your own business? Is it possible to get everyone to think of starting a business? Because I feel that's one of the ways of living a more fulfilled life, starting your own business, running a very successful business. At the end of the day, being where Joshin is, almost at the top of his pyramid, where he looks down and he's like, yeah, I have a perfect and solid foundation, and I can definitely say I will never apply for a job again. I'm saying this because one of my friends he had 2 barbershops before lockdown, and he had 2 internet cafes, and he was doing other things on the side. But as we speak now, he applied for a job, and he's selling weaves and other products on Facebook. It's really saddening to see that he's one of the people we're looking up to, saying, okay, I'm going to be like this guy. I'm going to start my own business and thrive. I'm going to hire people, create employment. And now, I'm not sure what went wrong there, but I feel like if it was someone who had a solid foundation, they would have thought of a way of getting up again instead of, forgetting everything and saying, let me just go back to the working world. I feel like the business route is one of the ways of, empowering our economy and making sure that we are on the right level in terms of competition with the rest of the world. I don't know what you think about that mindset.
First of all, let me just let you know, I definitely don't have the perfect pyramid, and I'm definitely not looking down on anyone. I'm normally the shortest guy in the room, so I'm always looking up at people. Running a business is rewarding. I think it's certainly what I have chosen to do in my career, but it's also a job. It's a job title, being an entrepreneur. So I think we over-romanticize the idea of being an entrepreneur and creating businesses. So with regard to your friend, I think that's exactly what he's doing now. He's being resilient. He's picking himself up. He's probably going to return to entrepreneurship at some time, right? So I think he's doing what he needs to get done. I actually think he's doing an incredible job to kind of go through what he's doing. So I don't think I would consider what he did as what went wrong. It's life. It's what he does with it now, and he seems to be kind of saying, "Listen, I'm not going to mope around and be stuck with this idea that I need to run a successful business to have a successful identity in my community. He's saying, listen, this is what I need to get done now. So I think he's doing probably the right thing. He'll be back and do, if he's got entrepreneurship in his blood, I'm sure he'll be back and doing it. So I think, support your friend, man. He's doing what needs to get done. I think the important thing when we think about people building careers going forward and how the economy is changing, how society is changing, is first to think of themselves as entrepreneurs, as businesses, so they themselves are a business. They offer their time, their energy in a job. They might be part of the gig economy, and they might have multiple revenue streams. So the first thing is to think of yourself and be entrepreneurial around your own self as opposed to around a business. Think of yourself as a business. Because the new economy demands that we do that, right? It says we need to pick up multiple skills, we need to have multiple revenue streams, we can have participate in the gig economy through kind of freelance jobs. Multiple freelance jobs. I can choose to work for a company for a couple of years and then freelance for a few years, run a business on the side. So I think the first important thing is to just think of yourself as your own business, right?
Yeah.
And take ownership of that. And then if you want to extend that into a business, fantastic. I can say it's been incredibly rewarding speaking for myself. It's been an expression of my creativity. It's had financial rewards. It's allowed me to learn so much about people. It's given me experiences that certainly have developed me personally. And it's rewarding to build something, frankly, and to create jobs and do all of those things. But it starts with thinking of yourself as a business.
Right, that's very powerful, actually. Very deep, profound. Someone told me once that you actually are a business, you are a product, you actually have something to sell just by you being present. I read one of your quotes, actually. You said, one of the ingredients of success, just paraphrasing, is just showing up. And you showing up, it's like basically putting your product on display, and it's there. It's better than not putting anything on display. I think if we get to understand that we all have something to sell, and it's how you sell it. I mean, some companies sell burgers, some sell, clothing. We definitely all have something to sell. And people really remember you for what you sold them and how you sold it. They won't forget you if you sell it well. If you sell laziness, they'll remember laziness, that he was slacking. I remember his product. I'm not buying that. So I really, really, really agree with you. I share the same sentiments there in terms of, you are a business and you have something to sell. Are there any, anything that has inspired you lately in innovation or in technology in and around the world? Or anything that we need to focus more on that we're not really giving a lot of focus?
There's so many inspirational things that are happening in the world at the moment. I mean, DeepMind, just being able to kind of fold over proteins and crack the ability to do that. So the progress in artificial intelligence is just remarkable. I think the fact that we've had a vaccine developed in less than a year is remarkable and inspiring.
True.
The fact that that SpaceX as a commercial business has put people in space. I mean, remarkable to watch those YouTube live crossings when they're launching. So I mean, these things have to inspire you. These things are bigger than yourself, So yeah, so there's lots of incredible things. I'm particularly interested in the future of money and how that's changing. I think that's changing before our eyes. The rise of cryptocurrencies and the underlying blockchain technology, but really Bitcoin, I think, is going to have a elemental, profound impact on in the world. So all the innovation that's happening in that ecosystem, and then layers on top of that, whether you talk about decentralized finance and all those things that happen with that, it's a remarkable kind of acceleration, almost a Cambrian explosion of new innovation happening in the world of finance. and decentralized finance at the moment in ways that I think that's going to profoundly change the way we transact, save, store money over the next 20 or 30 years.
Are you invested in any way in Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin specifically. So yeah, I think I certainly have put my money where my mouth is. But I think it does have a profound, I mean, beyond being a good investment or some people don't even call it investment, they call it insurance against the current system. So depending whatever your reasons for owning or having some money move into Bitcoin, it's beyond just the investment. It's really about, I think, a profound change in how money works in the world and if we change how money works in the world, we also change how society works in the world. So it's something I think everyone should understand. I'm not necessarily, I'm not saying put your money into it, because you shouldn't put money into things you don't understand. But definitely spend some energy and effort in trying to understand that world and where it's going.
All right. Man, thank you. I mean, it's been really fulfilling speaking to you. I know you have a lot of places to rush to. I actually wanted to ask you, how do you split yourself? I mean, you are a chairperson here, you are an executive here. There's so many places that you have to be, but you can't be all at once. How do you do that? Do you even have to split yourself? Or
with great difficulty. I think it has trade-offs, and I think those trade-offs you have to be aware of, because I think more focus can sometimes have more impact in a particular area. Yeah. I enjoy being stimulated across different areas. Also, I really believe that in order to live a more fulfilled life, you need to put energy into your into your community. You got to put energy into earning money. You got to put energy into your relationships. You got all of those things. But ultimately, I'm able to do so many things is because I spend sufficient time in helping have good people around me to do a lot of the heavy lifting and execution in these different businesses, organizations. So it allows me to move between them and to participate in each of them because they're really strong people and great people that actually support and run those organizations.
Right. Talking about me too, I know.
Exactly, I know. I mean, the team at City and a capacity are just remarkable. It allows us to do podcasts and be on interviews when the real work is done by you guys. Yeah.
Oh, let's not offend people. Okay. Man, one more question. If you had, just on the side note, if you had a massive billboard and you had like 5 million people to read it at once, what would you put there that would maybe inspire people, drive them to, as you say, put energy in their, affairs, towards success? What is it that you could write on that one billboard?
I would say freedom comes from owning yourself and taking ownership of yourself.
And if they don't understand what it means, maybe a little tagline at the bottom.
Own your own shit, man. You're responsible for your own life.
Yeah.
And you have agency in your life.
Yeah.
And if you can realize that you have control and your control comes from you, and it's not about the external world, it'll give you remarkable headspace of freedom and really become a master of your own destiny. Entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because they want to be masters of their own destiny. But it starts by realizing that you're in control and you have control of your own life.
Wow, man. Thank you so much, Joshin. Really appreciate you giving us your time. You're really inspiring. We're actually celebrating you today, hence we got you here. I feel very special, that you gave me your time. So thank you. I hope we can do this again next time.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty.
Okay.